everyone, I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing this glorious day? I am in the middle of watching Sunday football. All the AFC games are in the books. I'm sure you know how they went, especially your Steelers. And the Sunday Nighters about to kick off. We still got a Monday night game, so a playoff marathon, as I'm sure you're aware of. And I told you I would dig in deeper to the Steelers' loss 28-14 in Baltimore. And frankly, it's not much more optimistic now than it was 24 hours ago, to say the least. So let's just dig in here. A couple things out of the box score, again, the advanced box score. 72 plays run versus 45. Pretty dominant. You know, EPA per play, 0.297 for the Ravens. So every time they snapped the ball was the equivalent of gaining basically 0.3 points on the scoreboard, where the Steelers were at 0.069. Total first downs, 28-11. Rushing first downs, 15-2. Average plays per drive, 8.5 to 5.5. 46.9 yards per drive compared to 28 for the Steelers. 2.8 points per drive compared to 1.4 for the Steelers, double. 4 red zone possessions, 9 red zone plays, 3 red zone touchdowns for the Eagles. I was just watching them. Compared to 0 red zone plays for the Steelers. Some offensive snap counts I found interesting for the Ravens. They ran a total of 74 plays. Isaiah Likely was the highest non-Lamar O lineman out there. 59 plays. Maybe at the end they were trying to conserve Andrews, etc. But Andrews played 45 compared to 59 for Likely. Henry was out there for 45. Tylan Wallace had the most receiver snaps at 39 compared to 36 for Bateman. Patrick Ricard was out there for 35. Justice Hill for 29. Charlie Kohler for 22. So that's pretty much how their skill guys got distributed. As for the Steelers, again, only 46 snaps. But Siamalu, Spencer Anderson, Zach Frazier, Broderick Jones all played every snap. Russell Wilson missed 2 snaps with Fields coming in. Pickens played 36. Jefferson 34. Austin 33. Calvin Anderson had to play 29. Freiermuth 27. Jaylen Warren outtouched Harris 25-21. 21 also for Darnell Washington. Only 17 for Dan Moore Jr. Likely his final 17 in a Steeler uniform. Michael Pruitt was out there for 11. Mike Williams only 9. I expected that to be higher. Skoranek for 7. Hayward for 5. Fields for 2. And Minka for 1. Speaking of Minka, he's the only one that played all 74 defensive snaps. Queen missed 1 play. Elliott missed 3. Highsmith played 67 out of 74. 66 for Porter. 63 for Watt. Cam Hayward played 59. 54 pretty uninspired snaps by Ogunjobi, as well as the 52 uninspired snaps by Dante Jackson. Landon Roberts was out there for 47. 33 for Loudermilk. 31 for Benton. 27 for Peyton Wilson. 23 for KZ. 19 for Adams. 17 each for Herbig and Sutton. Killebrew ended up being out there 8, I think mostly in mop-up duty. Moon was out there for 6. Mark Robinson for 5. And only 1 each for Pierre and Bishop. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA, head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. fewer deep observations in this game than usual, but I still have quite a few here. Again, big picture stuff we will dig into down the road this week. What do you do at quarterback? What's the Tomlin situation? Who should they draft? Who can come back? We got lots of time for that stuff. But Tomlin just became the 5th coach ever to lose 6 straight playoff games. And the and that's a 3rd straight playoff loss by 14 or more points. Over the past 5 seasons, the Steelers are 16-14 in the months of December and January, and as you know, 0-4 in the postseason. They're the first 10-win team in NFL history to end the season on a 5-game losing streak, including the playoffs. The Steelers were outscored by 52 points during that stretch, just 14.3 points per game they produced during that 5-game losing stretch. Speaking of which, I went back and I charted the points scored in the 5-game losing stretch. These were the halftime scores going back from now till then. They're losing at the half every game. 21-0, 13-7, 13-7, 17-10, 17-13. So in this 5-game losing streak in the first half, they were outscored 81-37. It's pretty terrible, but this is worse. In the first quarter, again, going backwards, they were outscored 7-0, 10-0, 13-0, 7-0, 10-3. So in the 5-game losing streak, the Steelers in the first quarter were outscored 47-3. Oh, that's the root of the problem. A lot of stuff here I cut and pasted and added my own little spin on it too. Baltimore entered this weekend scoring 30-plus points in each of their last 4 games. They scored 28 in this one, but it felt like they could have put up 40 or more. One drive kind of summed this thing up. Baltimore had a 13-play, 85-yard scoring march in the second quarter, which they ran the ball in every one of their 13 plays. That drive pushed the Ravens' lead to 14-0, but it might as well have made it. It basically just ended the game there because the way they just had their way with the Steelers. Just a statement drive, as you recall. So the touchdown throw that Lamar threw to Justice Hill, we often talk about time to throw. That play, his time to throw, was 6.3 seconds. 6.3. Insane. Some advanced stats here on Lamar, who was great in this game. He completed 16-21 for 175 and 2 touchdowns, finishing with a plus 16.3 completion percentage over expected, which is the 5th highest mark of his career. He's had a pretty good career. Also carried the ball 15 for 81, including 10 designed runs, tying his own total from week 3 for the most in any game by a quarterback this season. Jackson completed 14-17 from inside the pocket for 129, including both of his touchdowns. Didn't really do anything wrong. Nor did Derrick Henry. He carried the ball 26 times for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, generating 79 rushing yards over expected in the Ravens' wildcard win over the Steelers. He forced 12 missed tackles on the night, gaining 157 rushing yards after contact, the 3rd most by any runner in a game this season. Henry has accounted for 3 of the top 5 games in most missed tackles forced on run plays this season. He also has the most games with 175 or more rushing yards in playoff history, 3. He just passed Terrell Davis, who had 2. He tied Davis for most games with 150 or more yards in playoff history. They both have 4. Henry averages 114.7 rushing yards per game in the postseason. Only Davis is ahead of him, 142.5, who have played 5 or more playoff games. He's run for 156 or more yards in 4 of his last 5 playoff games. Those are insane playoff numbers for Henry. Lamar and Henry combined for 267 rushing yards in this game. That's the second most rushing yards by a quarterback running back duo in a playoff game in NFL history, only behind Colin Kaepernick and Frank Gore's 300 combined rushing yards in 2012. Okay, so without Zay Flowers in the lineup, the Ravens utilized 2 tight end sets on a season-high 67.4% of plays. That's their second straight game over 60% mark at 2 tight ends, which is a ton. Across 50 plays with 2 tight ends on the field, the Ravens posted a 58% offensive success rate and 6 yards a play. During the regular season, the Ravens offense averaged 7.1 yards per play with 2 or more tight ends on the field, most in the NFL, and the only team over 6, and they were at 7-1. And folks, this is what the Steelers are striving to be, but are a long way away. Steelers are the heaviest 13 team in the league. They play a ton of 2 tight end sets. Nothing like that. So the Steelers had a first down on their opening possession, just one, converting their first third down. They wouldn't convert another third down in the first half. In the first quarter, the Ravens converted 3 third downs that were less than 4 yards, because they were always in third and short. But they also converted a 3rd and 13. In the first half, they were 7 of 8 on third downs, Baltimore, of course. So Steelers got the ball back with 2:27 remaining in the third down 2 scores, with Wilson having completed of passes of 25, 37, 30, 21, and 36 yards in the previous 2 possessions. 3 of those chunk passes had converted third downs on the Steelers' opening possession of the second half. So that part was good. Not a lot of good stuff here, but he took 2.5 quarters to really find any kind of consistency, of course. His footwork was really all over the place early too, which worries me. But in the end, he was 20 of 29 for 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. And 4 of those incompletions were throwaways. I thought that was noteworthy. You only had 9 incompletions. Really only had 5 because 4 of them were throwaways. Some other little nuggets here. Pickens ended up with the 3.0 yards per route run. That's a very high number. He definitely was not the problem. I would like to see the ball's way go more. Talked about this earlier when we talked about snap counts, but I thought Mike Williams did good stuff. I kept hearing that he's going to play more and more and more. But why not more? Spencer Anderson played well. I mean, he got thrust into duty at right guard. I thought he played well. I think he's a keeper. I'm not saying he's a starter, but I'm glad he's a Steeler going forward. No question. And Calvin Anderson wasn't terrible. I mean, there were some low marks, but I'd like to bring him back to camp as maybe a swing tackle type guy, I thought Landon Roberts was a killer in this game. I don't want to lose him. He's a free agent to be. More to talk about with that. Adams has been one of my faves. I've always thought of him as an underrated player, but really since he's been back from injury, he was disappointing in this game, and he's really been disappointing since. Maybe he came back too early. I'll have to look into what the details are there because he has not looked like himself since he's been back. Needless to say, the Sutton experiment was a massive failure. He was horrific once again. Couple nuggets here you're not going to like hearing about the Ravens, but 2 of their former first-round picks, Nate Wiggins from this year, the corner, he keeps getting better and better, played really well in this game. He's really promising. And Owe from Penn State, he's slowly or quickly becoming a star, a true edge-bending, athletic type guy. Both those guys really impressed me. I don't think TJ's been 100% healthy, but this is still a little mind-boggling. In Watt's final 127 snaps of the 2024 season, including the playoffs, 0 tackles, 0 assists, 0 sacks. No stats whatsoever in his final 127 snaps. Now, speaking of tackles, Roberts, Queen, and Hayward all finished with double-digit tackles. Roberts had 14. Minka had 9. So of that foursome, Roberts, Queen, Hayward, Minka, They had 43 tackles, including solos and assists. The Ravens as a team finished with 42 tackles with solos and assists. Think about that. That's the nature of this game. Now, part of this is because they were on the field a lot more, but I've been looking at the tackles for loss like I do sacks. Steelers recorded 5, Ravens only 3. Time to throw. Wilson was a 2.71, which I think is about where he needs to be. Lamar was a 3.23, and some of them were those crazy ones that skew things because he didn't throw it a ton, and one of them was over 6 seconds, but I thought that was a really high number. That's also who Lamar is. They blitzed Lamar on 37% of snaps, which in itself I don't think is a particularly massive detail here, but he is a highly blitzed guy and didn't really work. But the Ravens disrupted the Steelers by only blitzing on 11.4% of Wilson's dropbacks, a very low number. Another thing I've been getting into, because I think it shows when ball carriers kind of get free. Next Gen Stats will tell you how often a player reached 15 miles an hour or more. Steelers only had that happen once. On one of Russell Wilson's carries, did a Steeler ball carrier reach 15 miles an hour or more. The Ravens, on the other hand, remember, the Steelers had 1. Henry had 6 himself. Lamar had 5. Hill had 2. And Sims had 1. Reach 15 miles per hour or more. This is awful, and I told you this a week ago too, but it just got worse. So during this stretch here of losses, there's been 300 minutes of game time. 60 times 5. 30 possible minutes of time of possession. Take a hunch how many minutes the Steelers possessed the ball out of 300. Give you a second here. 121 and 32 seconds out of a possible 300. Ooh. Last thing, and Pro Football Focus does this now every week. They put out their initial summary, blah, 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 and they give you their 3 highest graded players and player of the game. Their 3 highest graded players were George Pickens with an 86.6. That passes a sniff test. I mean, maybe it's a little generous, but passes a sniff test. Tyler Linderbaum, who going back and watching this was pretty awesome, and it's frankly probably the second best center in the league, although I think Zach Frazier might be third. And he got an 85.7 grade. And then this one didn't quite pass a sniff test to me. Russell Wilson was the 3rd highest graded player in this game at 84.9. Now, I'm not saying he's terrible. He didn't do a lot of bad things, which I know is really important in their grading scale. Cool, I get that. But don't tell me Russell Wilson outplayed Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry or many other Ravens for that matter. And then their player of the game was Linderbaum. And this is what they had to say about him was, at the center of the Ravens run-focused game plan was literally the center. Tyler Linderbaum earned a game-high 83.3 run-blocking grade after his first reviews. He earned a positive grade on more than 25% of his run-blocking snaps and frequently paved the way for chunk gains by Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Linderbaum was very good. I have no problem with him being player of the game, although that Henry guy was pretty good too. That's what I got for now. Probably we'll do a mailbag once a week now that this is officially the off season, and I'm always open for topics. I have some things set aside to talk about. We got a lot of roster stuff to discuss. The NFL playoffs are still going on. I want to talk about the All-Pro selections. We didn't get to them yet, and I got a lot of other things too. But take care. Over and out.